Revenge films.
In my husband's household, my father-in-law already passed away, and my mother-in-law is very busy with her hobby. Looking on the bright side, she is a very good mother-in-law, who is not just so interested in me at all. However, my uncle-in-law is an evil man. The uncle-in-law of mine has a terrible upbringing. When he was still young, his mother passed away. He was still 7 years old at the time. His older sister is now my mother-in-law and was in high school. Not long after my grandfather-in-law passed away, my grandfather-in-law married another woman. Their stepmother was a much younger woman. Then, a few months later, my mother-in-law and uncle-in-law's stepsister was born. Because of that, my uncle-in-law was neglected by his father. Despite that home environment, my uncle-in-law grew up very well without straying down the wrong path until he felt less and less loved and felt more and more empty. As he grew older without emotional support from his parents, his heart felt like an abyss of sadness. That feeling grew stronger and stronger until he ended up abusing people. Whenever he sees a woman who are married and having children, he sees them as weak people and abuses them. Maybe it's because they reminded him of his stepmother who never cared for him. The first target he had was his stepsister. After his stepsister got married and she gave birth to a healthy baby not long after, my uncle-in-law harassed his stepsister, including the niece and nephews. Because of that, one of the children was diagnosed with depression and the other became a shut-in. My uncle-in-law's stepsister's husband declared cutting off all relations with him. I don't know the details, but from what I heard, my uncle-in-law had a raging hatred towards his stepsister. According to him, his stepsister didn't have a pretty face, so he shouted,
"There's one more ugly baby on this earth because an ugly woman gave birth to one! You have no worth living on this planet!"
He said something along those lines. My uncle-in-law's stepsister was not only one who was harassed. His stepsister's daughter was also bullied in school for her looks by the other kids. Because of that, she became mentally ill. His sister-in-law's husband became furious when he found out about this, and he declared to break off ties with his uncle-in-law. But thanks to that, I heard that his stepsister is now recuperating by going to a psychosomatic clinic. Then, the next target was me, but my husband and mother-in-law had protected me from my uncle-in-law. They made sure that my uncle-in-law didn't harm me or do anything to me while I was pregnant with our firstborn. A few months passed and I was safely able to give birth to a healthy baby. My husband and I were overjoyed as well as my mother-in-law. We all felt happy and relieved. However, the moment my husband and mother-in-law let their guards down, what I mean by letting their guard down is that when my uncle-in-law came to visit us with gifts in hand to congratulate us on the birth of our baby, both my husband and mother-in-law thought that there was no need to worry about him anymore. So they let him inside the house where I was with my baby. At the time, I was living with my parents-in-law's house, so my uncle-in-law walked into the room and brought alcohol with him. He knew that I was breastfeeding my baby, but he forced me to drink alcohol. Of course, I can't drink alcohol when I'm still breastfeeding my baby, so I declined his offer to drink, but my uncle-in-law didn't like that response, so he became furious and enraged. However, as for my husband and mother-in-law, they were just staring at me but not doing anything to help me. Apparently, they expected me to handle the situation smoothly without a hitch. My father-in-law was shameless. He even laughed and said that I aged drastically after giving birth. His loud, evil voice booming across the room. He continued to be persistent in making me drink alcohol. He didn't stop at that. He was also persistent in begging me to cradle the baby, so I decided to make him cradle the baby for a short time. But when I tried to take the baby back, he shook it until the baby cried, so I shouted, "What in the world are you doing? Stop that! What are you doing to my daughter?" Forced myself to take the baby away from my uncle-in-law's arms, to which he got angry at me. Most people would probably be scared at this moment, but unfortunately for my uncle-in-law, I'm not the weak type to just cry just because of it. I've heard plenty of things about my uncle-in-law from friends and neighbors. So flipped out and said to his face, "I see it now. I now understand why your wife took her own life, because she was very depressed and lonely because of a shut-in, because your child broke off ties with you. I know why you also treated your stepsister cruelly. You're broken beyond repair." Hearing me say that, my uncle-in-law, mother-in-law, and my husband all became dumbfounded and turned pale. My uncle-in-law made an expression on his face as if to ask me why I knew about all this. Actually, I've known this information since before, that my uncle-in-law's wife took her own life because of severe depression. As for his eldest son, he is already in his 30s, but he's just shut in. His daughters could not forgive him for driving their mother to severe depression. They broke off all ties with him. Both daughters left home and never came back. After pointing those things out, my uncle-in-law shouted,
"Shut up! That has nothing to do with this!"
He went wild, but I never backed down. I responded, "Of course, it has everything to do with this. I don't want to get involved with someone who broke up his own family." Both my husband and mother-in-law were in shock when they heard me say that. But it wasn't funny for me to be involved with someone abusive and reckless. I was prepared to divorce my husband, if that means I never have to see my uncle-in-law ever again. Apparently, my uncle-in-law never thought that I would have a counterattack, so he was very shocked and I screamed at him. Maybe it was because of his older sister and the people around him spoiled him to do whatever he wanted to do and say, because of what he went through when he was young. But he was very shocked when someone finally told him frankly to his face that what he had been doing up to all this time was wrong. After that, my uncle-in-law grumpily said,
I'll go home now.
He said that as he marched out of the door. I then said to my husband, if you won't break ties with that man, I don't mind getting a divorce. I never want to see that bastard's face ever again. So don't you ever force me to see him again. Of course, I will never let you meet our daughter ever again. I threatened to divorce my husband, so he agreed to break off ties with his uncle. Observing from across the room and hearing everything I said, my mother-in-law shakily said, well, there's no need for you to break off ties with him. That's a bit too extreme, isn't it? He's my son's uncle, so he's family to him after all. My mother-in-law's defended her younger brother. I think my mother-in-law just wanted to believe in my uncle-in-law, and my husband wanted me to be on good terms with all the members of his family as possible. But I couldn't stand having my child around that evil man. So are you saying that if something bad happens, you will take responsibility for it? That bastard tried to force alcohol into me today. I'm still breastfeeding my baby, for heaven's sake. If I drink even a drop of alcohol, it would affect my breast milk and affect the baby. Despite seeing that, you didn't even bother to step up for me. I thought that you would be able to handle it well. It's your responsibility to tell your family member to stop doing such reckless behavior. He'll listen to you more than he ever will listen to me. I thought from the bottom of my heart that this is what happens when people get very spoiled by their family and friends around them. I'm sure his childhood upbringing has something to do with his current behavior, but the environment that allowed him to do and say whatever he wanted to also affects his current and future behaviors. As for my husband, he was never abused verbally or physically by his uncle. He's always thought that his uncle was a strange and dangerous man, but deep down in his heart, he couldn't believe that it was possible for someone to turn out this cruel. The reason why he didn't target my husband is because my uncle-in-law was only targeting those who were in lower status and those that had a lower rank than him. My husband is the son of my uncle-in-law's sister. I think that's why he didn't abuse or bully him. But I'm a woman and I'm a mother now, so even though I'm a wife of his nephew, I became his target. But despite all that, my mother-in-law persisted and told me that I should forgive my uncle-in-law because of how difficult of a childhood he had. Please forgive him, he's just a pitiful child. She begged me to forgive him, but I think that's exactly the reason why my uncle-in-law became a twisted person. I'm sure that my uncle-in-law is the reason why his wife became severely depressed. I do feel bad for my uncle-in-law's childhood, but that's not a reason for him to ruin someone's life. To even ruin one's wife's life is unbelievable. He also ruined the son who is now a shut-in and away from society. Just because he had a pitiful childhood, that doesn't mean he should be allowed to destroy the lives of other people. It's not right, much less at the expense of the children. If I didn't do anything at the time, I'm sure he would have done something to my child. My mother-in-law still felt sorry for her younger brother, and she asked me to forgive him despite knowing this. I don't think my mother-in-law will ever understand me and the situation that she put me in. So I asked my husband to move out of the house with me. My mother-in-law wanted to see her grandchild's face every day, so she wanted us to live together with her. But my uncle-in-law shook my baby. My mother-in-law and my husband just stood there and did nothing to stop him. It's scary to be in an environment with people who won't help me in an emergency. After that, I immediately searched for an apartment and I moved into a place that was located a little bit far away from my parents-in-law's house. Of course, I will never tell them about my new address, and I even told my husband that I would not go to my mother-in-law's house ever again. If she wanted to see her grandchild, we will have to agree on a place and she could meet our child only during the time. I would never let my mother-in-law inside of our new residence. I don't want her to push me to have mercy and accept my uncle-in-law's behavior after all. As for my uncle-in-law, he was in severe shock when I talked back to him. Rumors say that he is now a shut-in, but I don't care at all. Many people got severe depression and became a shut-in because of him. So I think it's right that he experienced it firsthand.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.